And just like that, we are back in the lab once again. Not a lot has changed at the top of the Eastern and Western conferences, but there is some shuffling going on with the MVP ladder. Also, will the NBA's shallow support of the WNBA ultimately lead to the league's undoing? Let's talk about it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Trey Ball. We are going to dive right into some of the things that are going on around the league. Like I said, not a lot of things have changed at the top of the Eastern Western Conference, but specifically, let's take a look at the Eastern Conference right now. Philadelphia is still number one, Brooklyn's number two, Milwaukee's number three, Miami is number four, but there's a new team at the number five spot. Boston has dropped significantly over the last few weeks. You know, a couple of games here, a couple of games there, really starting to add up. But Atlanta's on an 8-game winning streak, thrusted them into the playoff picture. They're number five right now. Obviously, the coaching change is going to have a lot to do with it, but my perspective is you have all your players back. Your team's back. You're getting healthier. Not a lot of players going through the protocols again. Not a lot of knick-knack injuries and things of that nature. So you're able to put your full team out there and let chemistry run its course. And things are looking up for the Atlanta Hawks right now. But for Boston, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown really got to pick it up. They got to step their game up. They got to take it to that next level. They're all stars now. We get it. But now you have superstar talent that's going to waste. You're dropping down to the eighth, and you have potential of running out of time and falling to 9 and 10 if Chicago and Indiana pick their level of play up as you're descending. Now, Kemba Walker has been in and out of the lineup. He hasn't really had a rhythm going this year. That may have a part to play. But once again, you have two guys in Tatum and Brown that have superstar potential that can play both sides of the ball, and they should be dominating each and every night, and they just haven't been able to do that. And it's not resulting in wins. I'll just say it like that. Now, looking at the Western Conference, you have Utah at number one, Phoenix number two, LA at three, the Clippers at four, Denver and Portland at 5 and 6 with a 25 and 16 record tied up. Now, this is where the MVP conversation really starts to come into play for Joker and Damian Lillard. Those are the two new faces at the top of the MVP ladder that I talked about. Joker is at 26.9, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 41 from three, 56 from the field, and 87 from the free throw line. Think about it like this. You have a 7-foot center, okay? Putting up great offensive numbers. You would expect him to be on the boards with 11, but 8.6 assists, that's almost unheard of. It's very much unheard of. Now, you throw that in with the fact that if he picks up his free throw shooting just a little bit, he's still shooting an elite percentage with 87, but if he picks it up just a little bit, he'll be at 50, 40, and 90 with a 27, 11, and 8 assists per game. There's really not a way that you can possibly give the MVP to anyone else, especially with his team success matching his numbers at this stage of the season. I really don't see anybody else you can give it to now. Damian Lillard playing phenomenal basketball. Like I said before, CJ missed 24 games. Damian Lillard is putting up 30 points, 4.5 rebounds, 7.8 assists, 38 from three, 45 from the field, and 93 from the line. Has been elite, will always be elite from 3-point range. That's his bread and butter. Logo Lillard, we know what he does in late games, late in the clutch, and he's been doing that all season long with Nurkic being out and Collins being out, CJ out, and a couple of games where Covington wasn't there. Knicks and knack injuries have been a plague for the Portland Trail Blazers for the past 4 or 5 years, and there's one person that's always consistent, and that's Damian Lillard. And I think this might be his year to possibly breakthrough. He's already at number two in the MVP discussions. We'll see how things go for the next couple weeks. Maybe he can supplant Joker and get to that number one spot. But right now, I mean, being number two in the MVP discussion, maybe he's getting the respect that he deserves around the league and from the people that are voting on these awards each and every season. Also, you got to look at number three, Giannis. He's going to be there. Him and LeBron, 3 and 4. Giannis is at 29 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists. Still struggles with shooting. I mean, 29 from the three-point range, 67 from the free throw line, but he's still putting up efficient numbers from the field with 56%. they're starting to pick their game up as well. I mean, sitting at 26-14, it was looking a little shaky there early on in the season, but as these things tend to go with the Bucks, they still have to find their rhythm here and there. They also have new pieces with Drew Holiday being added into the mix. So you got to figure out how these things are going to, go as the season goes along, and just hope that your superstars and your Hall of Fame type players, or your MVP type players, they'll step up, they'll take the reins, and they'll start to lead their team in the right direction. Now, another key piece with them, they just added PJ Tucker to the mix, so I think that's only going to help Giannis free him up defensively and have more energy on the offensive end, especially late in games. One big thing for Portland is they're looking at LaMarcus Aldridge possibly leaving San Antonio in a trade or a buyout, preferably for them a buyout. He's looking at Miami, Boston, obviously Brooklyn's always an option, but specifically Portland, for him to go back to where he came from, for him to join back with Dame and CJ and link up again with Terry Stotts. I think that'll be more of a comfort zone than even it has been being in San Antonio for the past 6 years. So he gets to go back home in a sense, and get comfortable once again. And I look forward to seeing that play out over the next couple weeks as well, especially with the training deadline coming up pretty shortly within the next 5 or 6 days or so. But like I said, I do want to talk about the WNBA. Now, one of the things that I posted on social media was referring to Kobe Bryant and the NBA paying homage to him and his legacy and what it means to them. But what I really want to zero in on is how the NBA is only paying attention to the legacy of Kobe Bryant as it pertains to them, and not what he intended it to look like over the next several years to come. And we've seen Kobe, he was a girl dad. We see him with Gigi at WNBA games, NCAA women's games, Oregon, UConn, some of the bigger schools. And we always see him talking to the players, pulling them aside, giving them some advice, or having intelligent conversations with Diana Taurasi or Sue Bird, some of the legends in women's basketball. But one thing that I wanted to see was how could his legacy for the next several years be impacted by linking up with the WNBA. And what I mean by that is, what is it going to look like when Kobe officially makes himself somewhat of an ambassador for the women's basketball? Officially, he could possibly go into ownership of a WNBA team, or something along those lines. What if he really dove in head first? Because we've seen it coming, we've seen the projection of the next several years, like he's like to call it Act Two. What is Act Two gonna look like? I want my second act to be just as legendary as it was the first, even more so. And that meant being a great father to his daughters, being a great mentor to some of the guys in the NBA and the women in the WNBA, being a great coach. He was coaching his girls' basketball team, and there was a lot of different things that was leaning towards him really mentoring and really diving in head first as an ambassador for women's basketball. But now that he's passed, you don't really see that much. You see, NBA players here and there, they'll wear the logo on the shirt, which is great. Buy the hoodie, support them by purchasing merchandise and showing it on social media, like, hey everybody, I'm rocking it, go get yours. That's a form of marketing, word of mouth, where people see you, see someone of influence doing a certain something, they're using that influence to impact someone else. And that's good, but there's another level to this. There's another plateau that you need to reach in support of these women and their league. Now, earlier this week, we seen a post from one of the Oregon women's basketball players where she posted a rack of dumbbells and yoga mats. And this essentially was what the women were given by the NCAA for their training. This is what their fitness area was looking like. If you look on the other side, you see men with, squat racks, bench presses, free weights, dumbbells, barbells, machines, all the different equipment that you would normally see in a state-of-the-art facility, and it wasn't afforded to the women. This is why I'm using this conversation to talk about the WNBA in relation to the NBA, because It's a blatant, um, they're very blatant in explaining where their priorities lied. It was very blatant and out and open where they say we fully support and back the men's basketball, but we don't have the same sense of urgency when it comes to the women and the women's basketball leagues. Now, it doesn't matter how you feel about it, whether you think, hey, the women can't hoop with the men. They can't play the game with the men. They can't hang with us. They can't dunk or anything like that. So we're not gonna watch the women's basketball. No matter how you feel about it, I guarantee you, if you played some of the women in the WNBA, the Maya Moores, who has been on kind of a retirement, if you will, but the Maya Moores, the Candace Parkers, Diana Taurasi, uh, Emeka Ogumake. I always butcher her name, but I'll get it one day. Very talented player, by the way. All these different Liz Cambage, all these different women in the league. If you tried to play them, it would not go the way you think it's gonna go. It's not a cakewalk to play a woman that's at a professional level in basketball. Breanna Stewart, lights out, one of the best basketball players that we've seen in the last 10 years or so, that comes right out of college into the league, immediately dominates, already has championships under her belt. Like, it's out of this world how talented some of these women are, but they just get no respect and they don't get no attention or admiration as the men. Why? Because you don't really see the men doing it. You don't see the NBA really doing it. I'm just looking at a couple of notes that I took. Now, looking at some of the marketing numbers for just the playoffs, okay, for the NBA. 2014, they spent $75 million. 2015, $944 million. 2016, $1.031 million, which is $1 billion. 2017, they spent $934 million in just postseason marketing for the NBA. Let's take that last number, $934 million. When you compare that to the total revenue of the 2018 WNBA season, they spent 15 times that amount just for marketing in the postseason for the NBA. Now, let's look at it like this, okay? I remember, in marketing, all right, I have a degree in marketing and business management. When we were in class, our teacher told us for an assignment for our small business, why don't you think of a corporation? Think of a big business, a very famous organization that you would want a partnership with that will ultimately help your brand reach new heights and reach new levels that you want to see it get to, and ultimately get to the point where it's not just you benefiting from them, but they're benefiting from you. The importance of that is the NBA has to see it like this, okay? The success of our league and the future of our sport, not just the NBA, but the future of our sport, depends on both men and women seeing opportunity for greatness, seeing opportunity to reach professional levels of basketball, seeing that a 5-year-old, 6-year-old little girl that sees a WNBA player saying that someday I can reach that level, I can reach that level of greatness and be there someday. A lot of times these women don't see that. These little girls don't see that because it's not promoted. It's not promoted on their accounts. You go on NBA TV app, the NBA app, you don't see any WNBA information. You don't see any WNBA highlights or games of things of that nature. It's only for the men. Now, granted, the Women's National Basketball Association have their part to play in marketing and advertising. That's every business, that's every organization that in the history of business. Everybody has that responsibility to market and advertise their own selves. But they're struggling. What you need to do if I'm the NBA, you have to put some marketing dollars and some advertising, more effort into promoting these women. The 2020 season opener was coming up, and it was one of the first few times where they said, we're going to put them on the main channels. Now, a lot of times you see the women's basketball games, they end up on the ESPNU if you're the college basketball, or you find them on NBA TV every now and then. It's very rare that it really ever happens. Or you'll find them on like ESPN2 or something of that nature. They said no, we're gonna put them on ESPN, the main station, and give them the same promotion, advertising, whatever. We're gonna be promoting on the men's games and the women's games that these season opener matchups are coming up. The the um the ratings increased, the viewership increased by 63%. I don't care how many start I don't care if you start with one person watching one week. The following week you come back and you have 63 people watching. Okay, imagine that in thousands, okay? You go from, possibly having maybe 300,000, 200,000 people watching, and now you ultimately end up with 5 or 600,000 people watching for a season opener, simply because you put them on a main stage or you gave them textbook advertising. And what I mean by that is, look, Monday you're going to hear that LeBron and the Lakers are playing Kawhi and the Clippers on Friday night, okay? You're going to hear about that all day Monday. You're going to hear about it all day Tuesday, Wednesday. Stephen A. Smith is going to talk about it. Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp are going to talk about it. This big time matchup that's coming up on the weekend. You're going to hear about it day in and day out all day long. Why? Because this is the big main event of the week. This is the prime time game of the week. All right? That's how you market, okay? If I'm the men's basketball league, I'm going to promote the women's basketball game that's coming up the next day, or that same day, or the next couple days leading up. Why? Because that's how you market a team or organization that you say we have faith in, we believe in them, and we want to see them do well. Okay, that's how you partner with people. It's not just wearing a t-shirt with their logo on it. If you're wearing a t-shirt with the logo on it, great. I bet you can't tell me who's the logo of the WNBA. And by the way, that's a trick question. I bet you couldn't even answer it without looking up on Google. If I am the athletes, I want to see them wearing a Diana Taurasi Phoenix shirt. I want to see them wearing a Sue Bird Seattle Storm shirt. I want to see them wearing, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Candace Parker just left Los Angeles and went back to Chicago, where she's from. She just went to Chicago. So I want to see them in a Candace Parker Chicago shirt. I want to see these different uniforms. I want to see the actual players that we're representing, the players that we say we're cheering for. Every now and then you'll look and you'll see somebody at the WNBA game. You don't necessarily read about it on social media or anything like that. Why? Because it's not the thing to do. They're not, it's not the popular thing to be at a WNBA game if you're an NBA player. But the one person that did make it popular, Kobe Bryant, Gigi, they went to the games and you see them having conversation about the game of basketball. It's astonishing because you hear so many times people saying, I don't want to watch that, it's boring, blah blah blah. But you have one of the greatest basketball minds and greatest basketball players in the history of the game having a discussion with a 13-year-old about the nuances of basketball while watching women's basketball, talking about the fundamentals and the art of screening and shooting and passing and backdoor screens and running a specific set and types of offense and types of defensive strategy, timeouts, all these different things as it pertains to basketball, not just the men's side but also the women's, because it's not just about furthering the league, it's about furthering the game. No matter what gender you are, it's about the Women's Basketball Association being viewed with the same respect as the men have gotten for years and years and years. And ultimately, it's not going to happen because I don't think the NBA is willing to put that type of marketing and type of effort into marketing the WNBA like they say they are. Now, like I said, they wear the t-shirts, they promote them, they say, hey, we're wearing the logos on our shirt. That's amazing. That's a good start. Now, what I say about that is consider it like this, okay? The Nike pickup game commercial. Steve Nash, Paul Pierce, Kobe, all those other players, right? They were playing that pickup game at the base, right? What if they did a commercial like that for the women, playing a pickup game? Intense, great music playing in the background. I mean, Second Coming to this day is one of my favorite workout songs. Why? Because of that commercial. That was one of the best commercials. Nike, they did the other commercial where it was the Street Ballers. You had J. Will, White Chocolate. You know, you had all these other hoopers. Vince Carter. Everybody was in a video with street hoopers, right? Different things that you use to marketing, that effort that you put into that. What if you gave that same time of day and same effort into marketing the women's basketball? Okay, think of it another way. Okay, for several years you've been trying to get the Seattle Supersonics to come back to the city. While this whole time the Seattle Storm have 4 championships: 2004, 2010, 2018, and 2020. You have 2 legends that are in the game of basketball. Now, granted, look, I'm not by any means a Seattle fan. Uh, for anybody that watches women's basketball, I'm not a Seattle fan. My aunt is. I take pride in hating on Sue Storm. I take pride. I've been watching too much Marvel. I take pride in hating on Sue Bird and Lauren Jackson. Why? Because they won all the time, and I wanted to see somebody else do it. The only Detroit team that I really ever liked was the Detroit Shock. You know, they had Tweety Nolan, Katie Smith, Ford, Planette Pierce. I never forget the fight that broke out between Planette Pierce and Candace Parker. One of the best women's fights that I've seen live on television during a basketball game. But you know, I like the Detroit Shock. They moved that team out of the city. I don't know why. If they had the same backing as the Detroit Pistons from '04 had, and the same admiration and love that the city gave to the Pistons, they could have gave that to Detroit. They won 2 championships in their own right, right? I mean, it's all about how you market them. Like I said, going back to Seattle, they have a team that they could get behind and say, if we brought a team for the NBA back to Seattle, this is what it could look like. This is what we can expect from them. But they don't think of it like that. All they want to do is say, hey, you know, we did our little social media post. See, I got the t-shirt on. Cool. It's really all it comes down to, and it's a shame that we have to have this conversation during Women's History Month. Going back to the incident with the NCAA, you're telling us blatantly in front of our faces that we value the men's basketball because the millions and millions of dollars that they bring in for us each and every year. We don't value the women's basketball that same way because it's about the money. It's not about furthering the game of basketball. It's about dollar signs. And they're getting caught up in all these different things. And what I'm going back to right now is fake people showing fake love to Kobe. You want to show real love to Kobe? You want to further his legacy? You want to take his legacy to the next level? Okay, invest in the women's basketball, so Women's National Basketball Association. You say you're praying for Vanessa, you're praying for those girls? Okay. Honor their memory of their sister, Gigi, and start promoting the Women's National Basketball Association. Start showing up at the game. Start wearing their t-shirts, wearing their jerseys, buying the merchandise, shouting them out on social media, tweeting stats, figures, and numbers, just like you do the men's. Why? Because it's all about furthering the game of basketball for everyone, not just the league that's making the most money. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. Special thanks to Curtis Murphy and Murphy Lee Training for sponsoring this episode. If you want to stay up to date on merchandise or simply update your game, please click the link in the description to stay up to date on all things Murphy Lee Training. Until next time, you know the rules.